Thanks so much for stopping by and checking out the channel. New videos every Tuesday and Thursday here at the 1010 Club. And today we're looking at Seiko's SNZH57, what I'm calling Seiko's best watch under $200, which is a bold statement. So let's start by talking about everything that's wrong with this watch. Some quick dimensions before we jump on the complaint train. 42 millimeter diameter. It's 45 millimeters lug to lug. 14 millimeters thick, including that box dome crystal, and it has a 22 millimeter lug width. So what's wrong with this watch? Well, on paper, almost everything. Let's start with the most glaring deficiency. It's discontinued. Well, technically, they're not making new ones. However, you can still find them almost everywhere. Joma Shop carries them. Long Island Watch still has the Japanese models. Amazon carries them in all 4 colorways. There's a crazy gilt one, in addition to a black and white and a navy and white. eBay, that's where I found this one, and I actually got this for $120. You might be able to see the glaring reason why it was so cheap, and we definitely will cover that reason if you can't spot it right now. But let's call it a $170 watch for the purposes of this video, because you can find it from anywhere between $150 and $200 brand new, and they're accessible enough that I don't think the sold out status is enough to disqualify it as a suggestion. Now, looking at the watch itself, there are also some problems. Hollow end links, folded links. You know what you're going to see when I open this. Press, clasp, and it doesn't stop there. The push-pull crown means there's only 100 meters of water resistance. Speaking of that crown, it's also bare as the day it was born, no signature, and if I rotate it, absolutely nothing happens because the 7S36 movement inside doesn't hand wind. It also doesn't hack. We're also looking at a Hardlex crystal. So what am I doing telling you to go out and buy this watch with all those subpar characteristics? Well, let's start at the bottom and work our way up. The bracelet. I've seen a lot of videos, people complaining to the moon and back about the quality of this bracelet. I've even seen a video saying, don't bother sizing it. Just throw it out as soon as you get this watch in the mail and put it on something else. I couldn't disagree more. I actually love this bracelet. Number one, the articulation is great, so it fits my 7¼ inch wrist perfectly. It's more comfortable than my strap code Oyster bracelet. I love this thing. I got it for my SKX. This just feels better. This is solid link, solid end link, milled clasp. Doesn't matter. This just feels nicer. There's a few reasons for that, I think. Number one, and you might think this is a small detail, but it matters a lot to me. It has more micro adjustments. 4 micro adjust positions compared to strap code's 3. I don't understand how a premium aftermarket bracelet can get away with only 3 little micro adjustment points. There's no half links in this bracelet, so you're really at the mercy. And for me, and I might be in the vast minority, I'm in between sizes on the strap code. It's either just too tight or just too loose, and the solid links make this heavy enough that the watch will slip back and forth on my wrist if it's too loose. So I run into some problems. This watch fits me perfectly, and there's also a little bit of a silver lining with this bracelet. Because it's hollow folded links, it's lighter. So it actually feels more comfortable, especially in the hot days of summer. Oh, and also, let's not forget how perfectly it contours to the end of the lug. So if you have a smaller wrist, this is 45 millimeters lug to lug. It is only 45 millimeters. So this watch is all of a sudden opened up to a bunch of new and smaller wrists. Let's get the elephant out of the room next. The bezel is the main reason why this is nicknamed the 55 Fathoms. A nod to the fact that many people believe this is a Blancpain 50 Fathoms homage. And yes, we can do a side-by-side, and there are definitely similarities, and this bezel looks almost identical to the original Blancpain. However, I like this one more. And let's not forget, this is, 10% of most Blancpains? This bezel is gorgeous. There are a little bit of differences, and you might find me pedantic for pointing them out, but listen, the numerals are different. Also, the dial kind of compared with the bezel is different. The hands are similar too. I'm getting ahead of myself, but there are some differences. This isn't a one for one. If it was, I think I'd feel differently about this watch. Yes, there are some heavy inspirations between the Blancpain and the Seiko. There's no denying that. However, there are enough differences with this Seiko that I feel they've taken a great idea and kind of ran with it and made it their own. And the action, whoa. This is one of my favorite bezels. Sorry, scratch that. My favorite bezel I've ever operated. I use this thing like a fidget spinner. I'll look out for an excuse to use this bezel. It does sound different. It almost sounds tinny, and the clicks do feel a little hollow as I move it around, but I enjoy that sensation, and the action is just easy. It's like the perfect amount of resistance, a great grip with this kind of tooth style bezel. I love it. Bringing in the SKX, and this might be the best reference to use. It's hard. Now, I know these have to like loosen up over years, but I never have a good time turning this bezel. I really am squeezing as hard as I can with my fingers to the point where, yep, I got an indentation. I got teeth marks on my finger. Can you see that? Because of this bezel. Also, a negative for a lot of people is actually a positive for me. The 100 meters of water resistance, making this a dive style watch instead of a true dive watch. Maybe you feel like a poser wearing a fake dive watch. Not me. I absolutely love this watch. And in fact, I feel like the 100 meters of water resistance gives this watch some more freedom to be design heavy and gorgeous rather than strictly a tool watch. Because this is only a dive style watch, it can get away with stuff like the minimalistic dial. There are no little hash marks in between because we're not going to be technically timing anything underwater. It also then allows the dial to be a little busier with the minute track running around. If it had a minute track and hash marks on this bezel, it'd be too much. I feel like this balance is perfect. I also love the attention to detail on this watch. Yes, the stats on paper make it seem like a subpar quality watch, but this looks gorgeous. There is no way this looks like a $170 watch. And look at the dial. Applied indices, applied Seiko logo, applied 5 logo, an applied date window, and that blacked out date wheel. Perfect combination. Speaking of the dial, yes, the hands, once again, definitely reminiscent of the 50 Fathoms. However, for me, there's enough difference, and I actually prefer these hands a bit more. Let's space it out. I love the shape of these sword hands. I think they're perfect. I think the size is perfect, and I also love how that second hand goes right to the near edge as it sweeps around, which I think just makes this watch perfectly proportioned. Okay, the other elephant in the room, if you haven't noticed it by now, is the downside of having it be Harlex. There is a scratch and a half right there. If you haven't seen it, let's zoom in. There it is. Ugh. It's a deep one too. You run your finger over it, you can kind of feel it. I don't know what the person before me did to get this scratch. In fact, the scratch wasn't in the photos when I bid on this watch. However, you can see the video I put up about it. The language was kind of careful enough that I couldn't complain about it. That notwithstanding, this watch is gorgeous to me. In fact, you wear a watch with a scratch, after about a day, you don't even see it. I know for a lot of people that would be a problem, and I'll admit it actually is still a problem for me. I have a sapphire box dome crystal on the way, so I will probably replace it. And when I do that, I mean, this watch is going to be unstoppable. But the best part about this watch, and why I think if you like the way this looks on video, you need to go and grab one so you can see one in person, is the way it makes you feel when you wear it. I love this watch. It makes me feel elevated as soon as I put it on. I'm still here in quarantine, but when I wear this watch, I'm inspired to wear a matching outfit. I just feel good wearing all black with this watch on my wrist around the house. And that's what it's about for me. That's what fashion or watches or really anything you're interested in is about for me, is how does it make you feel? Does it make you feel better when you do it? Does it make you feel better when you wear it? And this watch absolutely does. because it's an elevated watch for under $200. It doesn't feel cheap when it's on your wrist. It feels like a substantial piece. And it has such great throwback vibes. It just makes it a complete classic. The box dome with that distortion is absolutely amazing. I love the crystal overlaid on this bezel. That's really the star of the show. And it's vintage without being faux vintage. This isn't an homage watch. I'm going to say that one more time. This is a nod to classic watches, and it has a classic design, but it's not a ripoff. It's not a recraft. I own a Seiko recraft, and I love the way it looked, but when I wore that watch and when I do wear it, it feels not like I'm an imposter, but it does feel like it's a recraft, like it's trying to recreate the past, where this feels like it just stepped out of a time machine. And it's also not one of those faux vintage watches. I love the Aura 65, but them and a lot of other watches doing the faux patina. I saw a comment on YouTube recently that really resonated with me. Someone wrote that the faux patina will not age well, and not visually, culturally. The fake aging of watches is for a watch that you don't want to wear long enough for it to age naturally. This is a classic watch that you would want to wear for years and years, until the lume starts to yellow, until the dial starts to patina, and this watch is set to do just that. And let's not forget, vintage Rolex watches have hollow end links, have acrylic crystal, so I don't feel right knocking this watch for those things when luxury brands were producing similar products and people were fawning all over them back then. Yeah, a sapphire crystal would feel better. Possibly a solid bracelet would feel better. But as far as a summer watch that just feels great on the wrist, has wonderful wrist presence, yet is comfortable enough to wear on the hottest of days, in the pool, on the porch, at the beach, wherever you're going, this is a winner. So no, on paper alone, not a great value watch. The Seiko SNK 805 probably would be the best because it has very similar stats for half the price at least. But it doesn't make you feel the same way as this watch will. So I'll say it again. If you like the way this looks on camera, you are going to love the way it looks in person and love the way it makes you feel. So if you have $170, it is honestly worth going this route versus an upgraded movement versus sapphire crystal. This watch is a classic for many reasons, including the ones borrowed from Blancpain, and this is staying in my collection. Thanks so much for watching. New videos every Tuesday and Thursday. I would love if you subscribe so we can keep these coming, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have I gone too far loving an homage? I don't think so. There is enough differences for me that this watch is a respectful nod to the past while making its own statement, and I love it. Oh, new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. Did I say that? New videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, I said it.